Today, I'm going to talk about Venezuela. Now, before you get too excited, I don't profess to be some geopolitical expert. I leave that type of expert commentary to Francis Foster or some 20-year-old with watermelons and the trans flag in their bio. No, today what I want to talk to you about is the reaction to Venezuela. Okay, so what happened? What actually happened yesterday, the 3rd of January, in Venezuela?
Well, some breaking news for you this morning, of course, because President Donald Trump confirms that the United States has carried out large-scale strikes on Venezuela.
Indeed. President Trump has posted on Truth Social in the last half an hour saying that President Nicolás Maduro and his wife have been captured and flown out of the country.
Okay, thank you very much. This is big stuff. All Venezuelan military capacities were rendered powerless as the men and women of our military, working with U.S. law enforcement, successfully captured Maduro in the dead of night.
A few hours later, this extraordinary image was released by President Trump. Nicolás Maduro, who just a few hours before had ruled over tens of millions of people in U.S. custody on board the USS Iwo Jima.
Wow. So even by the chaotic standards that we've come to experience from President Donald Trump, this is huge. Really huge. It's really big. It's really big news. Look, before we get into the politics of it and the political persuasions of it, usurping the leader of another country is a massive deal. It's not something that's historically worked out particularly well for anyone that's done it. So we have to ask the question, why would Donald Trump do this to Maduro of Venezuela? Well, the man behind what went on is Marco Rubio, Secretary of State for the US. And he said this in yesterday's press conference alongside Donald Trump.
Well, I don't have much to add to what you've heard now, other than the following points. Nicolás Maduro was indicted in 2020 in the United States. He is not the legitimate president of Venezuela. That's not just us saying it. The first Trump administration, the Biden administration, the second Trump administration, none of those three recognized him. He's not recognized by the European Union and multiple countries around the world. He is a fugitive of American justice with a $50 million reward, which I guess we saved $50 million. And
Make sure.
Yeah, exactly. But
don't let anybody claim it. Nobody deserves it but us.
But I want to be clear about one thing. Nicolás Maduro had multiple opportunities to avoid this. He was provided multiple very, very, very generous offers and chose instead to act like a wild man, chose instead to play around. And the result is what we saw tonight. The other message here is the following. You have a guy, like many people around the world, they like to play games. You have a guy who decides he's going to invite Iran into his country, is going to, do the confiscation of American oil companies, is going to flood our country with gang members, is going to take Americans prisoner and try to hold them for hostage and trade them like he was able to do with the Biden administration. Basically likes to play games all this time and thinks nothing's going to happen. And I hope what people now understand is that we have a president. The 47th president of the United States is not a game player. When he tells you that he's going to do something, when tells you he's going to address a problem, he means it.
So a whole litany of charges there. Drug running, criminality, he was a fugitive, they'd stolen American oil that was in the ground in Venezuela, they tried to trade prisoners as if they were legitimate. The US, the Europeans don't think this guy's the legitimate leader of Venezuela. I mean, that's interesting considering some of the reaction we saw afterwards. He palled up with Iran and therefore default, palled up with Russia. This guy was anti-America, anti-the West. He was an authoritarian, socialist, far-left leader, and America had had enough. And the point that Rubio was making there is that many leaders, particularly of the US, that have gone before now, have said they were going to do something about this and never have. Donald Trump said he would, and he did. Let's take a quick look at how Maduro got to power, and once in power, how he ran Venezuela.
A former bus driver and trade unionist, Nicolás Maduro became the protege of revolutionary Hugo Chavez and was catapulted to the presidency when Chavez died in 2013. He was not long in office before protests erupted over runaway inflation and critical shortages of basic goods. Protests in which his government quickly gained a reputation as repressive. Indeed, the International Criminal Court opened an investigation into the regime in 2021 for alleged crimes against humanity, including torture and sexual violence. Millions of Venezuelans have left the country under his rule due to political and economic troubles. As, despite sitting on the world's largest oil reserves, the country's economic hardships continued and only worsened as international sanctions ramped up against his regime, deemed undemocratic by the US, Europe and much of Latin America, who declined to recognise both his 2018 and 2024 re-elections.
So, through the medium of socialism, Maduro took Venezuela, a naturally incredibly rich country, and drove its economy into the ground for his own benefit. Quelle surprise. Given this, how did the people of Venezuela react when Donald Trump's military Delta One invaded and liberated them from this authoritarian far-left leader? Jubilant and emotional scenes there, not just from within Venezuela, but from Venezuelans all around the globe. This clearly was a moment of celebration for them, irrespective of who did it. They were just pleased that someone listened to them and someone did it. So what's so interesting to me, observing from the outside, is that the liberal left, the progressive left, the draconian authoritarian left of the West, particularly within the UK right now under this authoritarian Labour government, how did these people react? After all, we've seen how bad he was. We've seen how much of a tyrant he was. We've seen how much of a criminal he was. We've seen how illegitimate it was perceived he was by leaders across Europe and the US. And we've seen just how much joy and ecstasy it brought to the people affected the most, the real Venezuelans. Surely, therefore, the be kind class, the caring class, the everybody matters class, the people of a different type than us are the most important people in the world class. They surely would have greeted this with glee.
Shame, 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 shame. For the self-determination of the Venezuelan people.
Well, it would appear that the people that were just last weekend were flying the Palestinian flags, wearing their keffers and calling for the death of Jews have put those things down, picked up the Venezuelan flag and started campaigning on behalf of people who couldn't give a shit about them, haven't asked for them to campaign for them and are too busy jubilant in the streets of Caracas. But still, these wet wipes, these purple-haired losers, think this is appropriate.
Do the same to anyone who dares to challenge the imperialist interests, the interests of the state.
Look, if nothing exposes these idiots like this, nothing else ever will. Quite frankly, you have to question at this point, do they read? Do they watch? Do they listen? If you're wondering, by the way, where Great Britain and our illustrious leader was in any of this, well, nowhere. Nowhere at all. Donald Trump did not consider it in the least bit important to mention it to Keir Starmer, to the point that Keir Starmer had absolutely no idea what to say other than something about international law. And by the way, everybody who was a little bit confused because they're on the left of politics and because they know previously they had supported Maduro in some way, were all a bit, what about international law? Like it really exists in the way they hope it does. It doesn't. These people were kept so far out the loop because there is no trust there now. The lines have been drawn in geopolitics, and Europe and the UK, under its current ultra-liberal leadership, has been cast aside. It's not escaped me that this is a very serious act by Donald Trump. And on the geopolitical platform, this is something we never really hope to see. You never like to see the big Western leaders go in and take from the small guy. But we have to remember something here. Whilst all of that is true, this was a bad guy. This guy was peddling socialist authoritarianism that meant his people were in some cases starving without any hope whatsoever. Just look at the jubilant scenes. If you just park everything else in your head for a moment, look at them celebrating. Why are they celebrating? Why are so many celebrating around the world? There must be a reason for it. So we have to ask ourselves a question. Do we want someone with power to bring around positive change, or do we want people just to sit back and talk about it? On this occasion, it happens to be Donald Trump. Many people dislike Donald Trump, but many people ask for politicians of conviction, politicians who say they're going to do something and then do it. Donald Trump said he was going to do something about this and then he done it. So what do you want? It's never easy. It will make you squeamish sometimes. But what do you want? Do we just sit back? Diplomatic means we're never going to solve this problem. Diplomatic means have been tried and tried and tried. Don't forget Biden said he would do something about this. Biden. He did nothing. Donald Trump comes in, bam. So, whilst it does make me uncomfortable, and I know it makes some other people uncomfortable, we don't know what the future brings as a result of this. We can only hope that Donald Trump sticks to his word and the people of Venezuela get to live a peaceful and prosperous life from here on in. If that means that Donald Trump and the US benefit through oil revenue, maybe it's worth it. I'll leave that up to you. But I'll tell you what's not worth it. Paying any attention to these libtards, to these crybaby lefties who just pick up the current thing and run with it. They are so far out of touch with the people that they believe they're protesting for that they don't even care. They don't care. The group of keffir wearing, Palestine flag waving, Venezuela flag waving hunger strikers is getting smaller and smaller as lots of people look around and go, what are we doing here again? Who are we doing it for again? Why can't they just be honest? Why can't they just say they want this socialist, communist utopia that, by the way, has never existed and never will exist, and Venezuela and Maduro have just explained and exposed to them? Anyway, that's my look at the reaction to Venezuela. What do you think? Put it in the comments. Thanks so much for your continued support. Just today, I hit 6,000 subscribers. I started a week ago with just under 1,000 subscribers. So I'm really, really grateful and appreciate that growth. Much thanks to all of you. Please remember to like, subscribe and share. And until next time, keep it real.